All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all the honor, the praise, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Rachak Kodash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who are well. Peace and salutations to the elect scattered abroad. All right, this is Brother Barbazal here with a lesson. The Lord wanted us edifying. So today, just wanted to go to a lesson through the Spirit. Just, again, going into the type of times that we in, right? Because, prophecy, of course, has been booming. Brothers have been pumping out videos. And, we at the end of this thing, man. All right, we at the end of the end. All right. And, of course, with everything going on, right, it's important for us to be in the right spirit. We really got to prepare ourselves, for what's to come, because it's easy to talk, but you got to walk the walk. The walk being, having that faith, right, until the end. Okay. And this is 2 Ezra 9:1. It says, he answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself. And that's what we're currently doing, measuring the time diligently. Okay, looking at the news. All right, paying attention to what's going on around us. All right, filtering it through biblical prophecy. All right, we can see this. We see tensions rise, in the so-called Middle East with Iran and Israel, which, it's only a matter of time before, Russia and, America, step in, right? But we know that before that happens, right, or before at least it reaches the climax, right, that MOTB has to be established, right? And we see that this guy, Elon Musk, right, has started the clinical trials of the Neuralink, all right, the brain chip, okay? So everything is falling in line, man. The earthquakes everywhere, man, So we seeing it and we here, all right? Gas prices going up, all right? Everything getting too expensive, all right? Everything is being set up, to eventually get to that digital system. All right, everything is being set up for this place to eventually get that destruction. All right, we seeing all the signs that we supposed to see, in order for Yahweh to return, right? You could read that in Matthew the 24th chapter. All right, and when it says, and when thou seest part of the signs past, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. All right. And, that's going into Yahweh Shai, first. All right. Because we know that Yahweh Shai, he going to come back with the angels. All right. And the scriptures say that. Right. And let's get that real quick. This is Matthew 24:30. It says, and then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, going to see Yahweh Shai, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. Yeah, so he's going to come with the chariots, all right, with the angels, with power and great glory. All right, that's going to be what finishes this kingdom off. All right, and puts these devils in slavery. All right, that's going to be the start of the righteous kingdom, the new heaven, the new earth that, we are, we hastening for. Okay, verse 31, and he shall send his angels with the great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. And we know that the elect will be scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. All right, because that's one of the curses, of course, right? The Israelites being scattered. Okay, so it's going to be believers around the whole world. All right, but the main, great deliverance will take place in Babylon the Great. All right. So let's get Isaiah 33:6. And wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times, and strength of salvation, and the fear of the Lord is his treasure. There we go. All right, so this is what's keeping us stable. This is what's keeping us our head on straight, right? This wisdom and knowledge and understanding of the scriptures. The Lord putting the spirit on us to understand the type of times we in, and hastening and really rejoicing, because we want the prophecies to happen. We want Jacob's trouble to come. All right. We want all hell to break loose because we know it's that much closer to the Lord's return. But with that being said, of course, we have to make sure that, we overcome until the end, enduring, right? Living by that faith, because we all going to be tried, of course, with that hour of temptation. All right. So it's important that, we keep that in mind, right? No matter what we go through, we have that faith. And, if it push come to shove, if we got to be martyrs for this thing, we got to be, ready to take that, we got to ready to take that lot as well. All right. And hey, Lord's will, the Lord's elect or hopeful elect, those in enduring, will have that spirit, which we know that there will be martyrs in this thing. So this is the book of Habakkuk 2:4. It says, behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. All right, and it's going to come upon a time where we just strictly living on faith, man. All right, that the Lord is going to deliver us. All right, it's going to be a lot of, supernatural things going on. Brothers going to get spiritual power. All right, and that's all by the faith that, we carry. All right, and the Lord is going to guide brothers to do what they got to do, and we're not to, too much dwell on it, and of course, we're going to be in the flesh, things of that nature, right? But, through our faith, we know that the Lord is going to keep us. All right. And the Lord is the Lord is going to, preserve us, to Lord's will be those first fruits, the elect beamed up in those chariots. OK. Yeah. So I'm going to read that again. This is the book of Habakkuk 2:4. It says, behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. All right. And, the right faith, right? The faith of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, right? Because we know that these different Christians, Catholics, those who ain't, rooted, even those of the circumcision who ain't rooted, right? They don't have the right faith, that the faith that they think they have is going to leave them during that day. A lot of guys is going to believe that, they got to do what they got to do for their family. They got to do what they got to do to eat, to drink, to work. All right. To keep, whatever belongings, they may have. All right. That's the type of spirit that we know that the people will be in. All right. But we, Lord willing, will endure till the end. And let me get that scripture real quick right now. So this is the book of Revelation 3:10. It says, because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation. Yeah, because we have kept the word of his patience, because, we're hastening the Lord's coming. We doing the work, keeping the laws, statutes, and commandments to the best of our ability, pumping out videos, staying focused. All right. Focused on the prophecies, staying focused on, being a servant of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua. All right. Not giving a damn, what these people think about us. All right. Because, we care about how the Lord views us, not what the world views, not how the world views us. All right. Because we understand that these people hate Yahushua. They rather worship, Cesare Borgia, right? Jesus, right? They rather worship the so-called white man. We're going to see that happen, of course, when the MOTB is implemented. We're going to see, where these people heart truly lies, right? Because that'll be the ultimate, that'll be the ultimate allegiance to Esau, saying that, he's your God. All right. And hey, and there's a lot of people already that will be down to take it. You got certain people saying that, oh, just a little bit more research, and I'll think about it, which, that a type of mindset like that, he gonna take it, he's through, whoever, we got a lot of people, sick ailments, paralyzed, a lot of these different people who are dependent on Esau's, different medical practices, his witchcraft, his prescription drugs, they're going to take it. It's going to be part of those, left-handed miracles. All right. So let's read it, Revelation 3:10. And it say, because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. You see that? So it's going to try the whole world, and the only people who will actually, pass that test, who will be kept from the hour of temptation, right, is the elect. All right. But that's pretty much the lesson, Lord willing, it was edifying, so with that, I like to give all the honor and praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash.